Welcome to the Standard Podcast. My name is Chris Pallatroni. I am both the host of the podcast as well as the founder and CEO of The Standard, which is a social platform dedicated to mental health and wellness. Before I dive into the podcast and what you can expect and some of the guests that we'll have on, I want to give you a little bit of a background as to where this came from. Why did we build a social platform? Why is there a podcast that is supporting it? And so this journey started a little over 2.5 years ago as I was exiting my first company. I knew I wanted to build a second business, and I wanted to make sure that the business I was building both was something that I enjoyed tremendously, but it was also something that was going to help as many people as possible. And so I've always loved the idea of self-transformation and pushing the boundaries of what we're capable of mentally, physically, and spiritually. And I also recognized how hard it was for most people to develop positive habits, to get themselves inspired and motivated, and to do the things that ultimately would lead to a very fulfilling and meaningful life. And so I wanted to see if there was a recipe to help people build really solid habits and to make it as easy as possible for them to make the right choices in their life, whatever that meant for them. And so I started this process off by reading hundreds of books on habits and neuroscience and storytelling. I talked to hundreds of coaches from all across the planet, and I was essentially scrubbing all the information I was taking in and the conclusions I was coming to up against experts in their field. And I wanted to see if the ideas that were forming in my mind as to what this recipe might look like could stand up against the expertise of a lot of these professional coaches and these authors that I was reading. And so I took copious amounts of notes. I built mind maps on this stuff. And there was two conclusions that I came to among all the ideas that I had that would be helpful. And the two pillars of this platform and really this podcast that I came to were the fact that storytelling is everything. Our brains are wired for a narrative, and storytelling in itself is not all that novel. And so what I wanted to do was take a slight detour on the idea of storytelling and really focus on the habits and the mindsets and the routines that people use in their personal life to support their mental health and their well-being, and ultimately the things that they do to support their success. And so that was really the focus there. I'm a big believer that it's not the words that we say that determine our lives, it's the actions that we take. And so everything we're doing on the podcast and on the platform is very much focused around the actions that people are personally taking to take care of themselves. So that was one aspect of it, the storytelling side through the lens of habits and mindsets and routines. The other major conclusion I came to was that in order to help people wherever they're at with whatever issue they're going through, whether it's a more mental health related issue or maybe it's more wellness related, that you have to find a way to meet them where they are at in their own journey. And there's 8 billion of us on the planet. So there's a lot of people that are at different stages in their development. And so the idea here was to build a mechanism that allowed a lot of people to share their story, to pay it forward, to have the courage to say, these are the things that I do to take care of myself. And what the platform does is it deconstructs those stories, those individual posts on habits and mindsets, and it organizes them in a way that you can search the platform as a user and you can find the things that are most important to you. So if you're dealing with anxiety, or maybe you're dealing with depression, or you want to be a better communicator, or fitness or nutrition is important, it wouldn't really matter the topic or the issue that is most important to you or top of mind. You would be able to easily search the platform and you would be able to tap into the experience of another person who had been in your shoes, who is just slightly further down the road. And the reason we constructed it that way is because content alone does not move the needle on a person's life. What I wanted to do was find a way to provide content of people very much like you that had been in your shoes, that could use very specific language as they were talking about their story that would resonate with the user who's still dealing with that issue. And I view that first part of the process right there as sort of engineering inspiration, connecting people with a challenge, with people that have overcome that challenge. And I feel like if you can inspire people to think differently about their situation, then I think that really serves as the jump off to earn the right to provide them tools and resources to take action on that inspiration. So, lots of different ways to take action. I won't go into that here, but that's really what the platform is about, and really what this podcast is about as well. It's about taking individual members, a lot of them are coaches, and putting the spotlight on them each week. We'll do a deep dive as to what are their habits. We'll only be able to take a look at a habit or two or a mindset or two, but we'll get really granular as to what are they doing to take care of themselves. How are they doing it? What does it look like? And most importantly, why do they do this? We'll get very specific as to the tips and the tricks that they can share with the listeners. And the hope would be is that we can inspire you to think differently about maybe a similar situation that you're running into. And if you like what you're hearing about these different guests, then you should absolutely log into the platform so that you can interact with them. You can also take a look at their more expansive profile on the Standard. We'll only be able to give a sneak peek as to a few of their habits on the podcast. And you'll also be able to interact with a lot of other amazing members and initial contributors. So super excited for this. My hope is that both the platform and the podcast really serves as a vehicle, a tool to help people make positive change in their life. And so each week we'll come out with a new episode highlighting a new member, a coach most likely somewhere around the world that can share some insight and hopefully help you along your way. So stay tuned. Look forward to sharing more with you.